The discussion we were having was, it was around like, what should the Moore applications, not David Moore, but the MORE applications actually be about? Should they be close to, like, here's what you get with a typical CLI-based Angular application with as close to the default settings as possible and code that lives within that? Or should they be closer to what Oasis Digital projects actually look like with the much tighter TS config and lint and all the other settings that would go into a more bulletproof project? I am of the opinion that it should be more to the bulletproof side, but I totally understand the idea, like, this is a realistic project if you were sticking with the CLI settings as they come out of the box. I don't know which one of those is the right answer, but that will determine how you fix or bring those applications up to date. I believe it would be easier, actually, to do more of the bulletproof side because it would be the same lint configuration, same TS config, or very close to what you actually have in the class materials.
What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, the tricky thing is we're significantly raising the bar of the work we do on those things that are currently like pretty close to like throwaway status in some cases, like just quick, easy, get something just so we have something, get it in there.
Yeah, and this Zachary is amazingly talented and so fast.
And so like we have to make a list of all the practices we routinely do, and then have someone execute on all those practices in each of those.
We just need to literally drag the TS lint
we've
file
got
from
the configuration
from the ABC
Lint
down.
and
So the TS lint configuration is not a standalone TS configuration.
Throw it on Google Drive.
It works in conjunction with Prettier. So we'd also have to bring Prettier into each of those projects.
Okay.
Right?
That's a plus.
Which is not terrible. It's good. I like Prettier. Big fan of Prettier. It's just it's a significant raise of the bar. Is all I was getting at.
My opinion, especially since I'm not the one having to do the work, is it is worth the work, and it's closer to realistic because that's what people want out of that More directory. In my experience teaching from this material, it's like, hey, have you got an example of your WebSockets app? I use all the time. People want to see that WebSockets app.
Is my WebSockets thing in there?
It isn't, and I would really like it to be like brought up to date.
Paul's WebSockets example isn't there?
Yeah. I thought it's the one you used for your 6-part YouTube extravaganza.
No, that's server-side events.
Yeah.
No, different thing.
Yeah, I did WebSockets. His thing was server-side events.
Yeah.
Server.
Then I've been lying to people just left and right.
I have to agree with Bill though, but for a slightly different reason because we're using these as examples. And having them all be slightly different in configuration means that there's going to be a lot of confusion of which one do I use, which one is the quote-unquote right one. And having a nice standard across everything makes it so that there's no digging.
I agree with the idea of that, but there's a lost reality of, like, yes, but this is what you're going to get when you travel out into the wild.
Yeah.
We've had this discussion though about like what HTML looks like, and we are aiming to like up the bar for what people should expect. I don't want to have, well, this is the sort of garbage that you can expect on any typical corporate app. I want it to be, wow, if we do it this way, our life doesn't suck nearly as much.
Well, our beloved customers' apps are not garbage.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That you want to provide exemplary examples, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that there's an initial amount of work that needs to be put in to get them brought up to that level, but then beyond that point, it's the same amount of work going forward. Just to keep them up to date with the CLI.
Much of that was a discussion of all the ancillary tooling files, but the actual source files, and even like the decision design of what to put in the example at all of those mores, are at a much lower bar right now than the stuff in the main sequence of the class. Every single one of those has just been hammered on by a bunch of just random subsets of very experienced instructors, right? The stuff in More is just sort of a, I'm trying to find the right word for it, but it's a collection of things you could look at if you needed to, that have, like, notwithstanding how the code is formatted or linted or prettiered, like what it does and why it does it and whether it's even good for teaching actually has not been subjected to any of that scrutiny.
Well, I think that may be a problem that we should fix. So
I think I'm hearing a volunteer.
If that stuff is going to be out there, then I would like it to be something that we could point to and go, we're proud of that. And it doesn't sound like we are.
So it seems like we should probably have we have an issue tracker, which is not public, of course, of things we'd like to make better in our curriculum. it seems like there's a pretty big one, to like bring all the more stuff up to the level of polish. Does this sound? I'm looking at Paul, who is the curriculum lead. And
These are small
I'm looking for him
applications. They're not-
to be happy or unhappy
Well,
with this
and
idea.
there's not too many. I'm still trying to make up my mind about which direction philosophically is in fact the right direction. Like I get what you're saying about like the level of quality on it, but the like parity with CLI, I guess they already experienced that when they like NG new, and
Sure.
we already give the treatment of, but like let's take it a step further. So yeah, I mean that I guess that experience isn't lost because we walk them through the creation of a CLI app.
Yeah, and I would like our class to actually include, as the CLI has become more fundamental and foundational in Angular development, I like to spend more time in class going, and here are the ways you can adjust it and tweak it, and here's what a builder does, and here's what schematics do, and this would play into doing a better job of like really conveying the importance of the CLI. To me, I feel strongly enough about it that they should either be really good examples that are kept up to date and like given the same level of attention that Kyle's talking about, that the core class materials are given, or we should get rid of them. I don't want them to be just like things that are out there just cause.
Yeah, I'd say let's throw it in the hopper, and then but
Certainly the video stat tracker app should be like really held.
Yeah,
to the
well,
same
and,
level.
I think like I think the video stat tracker actually led out on the linting and configuration rules
Probably
Yeah,
so.
over over
Yeah.
our numbered steps.
It wouldn't surprise me.
And we actually like that's what caused us to backport them. But yeah, I think that's probably okay to go ahead and get in our hopper. But getting back to making progress here, like where do we land on getting this Angular 8 version across the finish line? Like, do we say like it must now adhere to this new standard, or can we just get it linting without error?
I think we should take whatever person has the time, capacity, and willingness to volunteer to do it, and not try to impose any more constraints, and just say whatever path you can get to most effectively, either the current default CLI, lint, and other files,
And crank it up if I want to.
or crank it up to the ones that like we use for the kind of the core curriculum. However you have to bob and weave to get it to compile and lint cleanly with fully current CLI plus optionally other stuff, just so that the thing we publish compiles and lints cleanly.
Right.
But
But
Full freedom within
yeah,
that.
if I can do all
So
that.
that gets that one across the finish line, but I hope I'm not hearing, and that's where the story stops. It doesn't
No.
obviate the need to like bring
The
it up
finish
to
line we're trying to get to is to get this branch that currently, like, to make us where we're not shipping any more Angular 7 code.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the problem we're trying to solve, like, first, separately from the problem of making it better in other ways.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
because trying to show off config files, like even in my last class I just taught, like I was trying to show off config files because for some reason one of the desktops didn't have yarn on it and stuff like that. So I was like, oh cool, I can go into the more, they have projects in there, but they're Angular 7 and the file structure between Angular 7 and Angular 8 is
Yeah.
pretty different.
Right.
So I couldn't really show anything
Well,
off.
and just as a teaser for Angular 9, the defaults are actually going to change on that file structure. So
Right.
you're not going to, I don't believe you're going to end up with a default root application. So
Finally.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the next branch.
Okay.